Hello everybody, today we are going to be taking a look at a pretty simple problem. This problem is called, given a string, identify the first character that is a duplicate. So it is pretty simple, straightforward, and we're going to take a look at the best way to approach this type of problem. So for an input, we have, for example, the string would be ABCA, and the output would be A, because the first character that is a duplicate is A. It appears in the first character and the fourth character. So that seems pretty simple at first. Now, how will we go about solving it? The first way that we can immediately see is that we'd go through the loop and then we'd see the first character and then we'd store it somewhere, and we'd loop through the entire string in an n squared time complexity. So let's take a look at what that brute force solution would look like, and then take a look at some of its issues and how it would work. So we would do something like, for I in range of length of s, since we're trying to go through the entire string character, so the first loop we're going to be going through the entire character, and then we're going to have another loop. This one will just go through the starting from the second character and going to the end. So we'd start with I plus 1 comma length of s. So what this would be doing is we'd have two uh, characters that we're looping through, right? So j is starting from I to 1, and what we would be saying is that if s of j is equal to s of I, if it's the previous value, if this value is the previous value, we'd return it. Return s of I. And at the end of this, we can just return none. Alright. So, this is the first solution of how we would do this problem. Basically, how this problem works is we'd have a pointer starting from the second value as j. We'd take a look, is it the same as the previous value? No, so we'd go through the entire loop, we'd see it, and eventually we'd hit A, and then it would return A out here. But what if A was here, for example, and this one was something else like D? Then what the entire thing would do is that we'd first start with B, is it D? No. A, is it D? No. A, it goes back to D, and then it will move on to B. Is A, B, A, B? No, it's not. And then finally it gets to AA. So if we have like a string of a bunch of characters, not including D, so like let's say like some random characters that are non-repeating, this one doesn't work, but like let's say it's something, yeah, something that looks like that, then it would take much longer to get to this last thing, because you'd be repeating over in the loop multiple times, which would end up being an big O of n squared time complexity. O of n squared. But that's not what we want here. There is a way to do it in in a time complexity of, instead of n squared, our goal is to get it into big O of n. Now, the key to doing that is utilizing what is called a dictionary. A dictionary in Python, also known as like a hash table or a hash map, it's an efficient data structure that can instantly we can instantly search into it using a big O of n, big O of 1 time complexity. So first, let's take a look just to see if this actually works. So for example, let's start by actually testing this code, just making sure it works. Print first duplicate character, of s, and let's say s is here. So now when we return this, it should be a. Okay, so let's say we got this. We can run the code, and then we see that the output is going to be a, because the first duplicate character is in fact a. So we got this. Let's now test the more efficient way to solve this problem. So our methodology is we're going to be using a dictionary, a more efficient data structure, and constantly look into this dictionary, which is a time complexity of 1, which is significantly faster. So let's just call it the same thing, 2 of s. So how we're going to approach this is, first we're going to have a dictionary. We're going to call this, let's say, visit, let's just call it chars. Okay, chars is equal to this. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be storing in this character, in this dictionary, for car in s. So basically, we're just like the first character. Instead of looping through the entire list, we're going to be looping through each individual character in the string. I and j are usually used for the indexes. We could also use the same value of here for I in length of s, for I in range of length of s. We'll do the same exact thing there. Now if s of I in cars. So what this is looking for is, this is basically the operation where we look to see if that character that we previously found is in the dictionary. And if it is, we're just going to simply return the character. Return s of I. Because we know that the duplicate has been found. And what we're going to do is, otherwise, if this isn't true, we're just going to store the scene of car, scene of s of I. Cars of s of I is equal to true. So if we have this dictionary called cars, we're going to say cars of s of I is equal to true. So what this means is, the dictionary, we're just storing the dictionary value, and in the list, for example, because in this list, let's say we take the ABCA, what it's going to be is that the dictionary, it stores key value pairs. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be storing a key value pair into this dictionary of cars, which is s of I as the key and the value of true being the value. So this is going to be stored, for example, in the first character, it would be a as true. And basically, the code will continuously look in. You see in this code right here, it will continuously check to see, is the character that we're looking for in the string, is it in this dictionary? And if it is, we'll immediately return it out. And what makes this code so efficient is that this operation here is basically a single operation. It takes a time complexity of 1, so it's very efficient to immediately look into this key using an algorithm called a hashing algorithm, which we'll go more in depth into maybe some other video. But essentially what this means is that we can get this all done in a single loop. So now, once it returns the thing, it'll return out the first character that is a duplicate. And yeah, basically at the end of this loop, we'll just return none. Once again, if there is no duplicate, we'll just return none, or whatever character. Maybe you just want a blank string if you don't want to do that. But yeah, well, we'll just stick with returning none. So now, yeah, we can test this code just to see if it works. First duplicate character of 2, and we get the same exact result. A is what's returned. We can test it again with a larger string. Let's say we type the word, let's say we have the word programming here. If we run this code, the first duplicate character is going to be R, because as we see here, R is the first duplicate character in this word. So yeah, that's basically how this code works. Hopefully you guys understood the logic and how to get the most efficient solution using a dictionary based approach. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.